Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Elias Mujica, and I am Executive Director at World Monument Fund Peru. For those of you who are unfamiliar with us, World Monument Fund is the leading independent organization devoted to safeguarding the world's most treasured places to enrich people's life and build mutual understanding across cultures and communities. We are based in New York, but we have staff and office all around the world, including Peru, our only office in Latin America, where we have several ongoing projects. It is a pleasure to see so many of you here for today's event, studying conservation, the case of the carved monoliths of Cerro Sechín, Peru. The event will feature a presentation by Ingrid García, who is leading our conservation effort in Cerro Sechín, and comments by stone conservation experts Simon Warrack, Cristina Vazio, and Nelly Robles, who are joining us from different parts of the world. I must address that our fieldwork at Cerro Sechín started a few months ago, thanks to the United States Ambassador's Funds for Cultural Preservation of the American Embassy in Peru. So we are grateful to have Rebecca Webb, Cultural Attaché of the U.S. Embassy in Peru, who will give us a few welcome words.
Good morning. I am very pleased to participate in this event to share the excellent preservation work that is being done in Cerro Sechín with the support of the Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation. For us, it is an honor to support the conservation of the stone sculptures of Cerro Sechín. We're also pleased to be working with the World Monuments Fund in this effort. The Embassy of the United States is committed to the preservation of cultural heritage in Peru. All our efforts in this field fall under the Memorandum of Understanding for Cultural Patrimony Protection, signed between our two countries 25 years ago and recently renewed until 2027. Thanks to this MOU, we have been able to organize a series of programs, including training courses for museum personnel and courses to prevent the trafficking of cultural patrimony with police officers and customs agents. Likewise, we support gender equity in the field of archaeology through a network of women in archaeology called Red MAP. I invite all female archaeologists to join. We also organize virtual conferences with specialists from the United States. Our most emblematic program is the Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation. Through this fund, the United States has financed 31 projects in 14 regions of Peru for more than $3.3 million. I'm pleased to note that Peru is the country that has received the most funding in the region. Our support is possible thanks to the excellent quality of projects we receive in response to our annual call for proposals. Please keep an eye out for our 2023 Ambassador's Fund competition, which will be announced on our website soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you to the American Embassy in Peru for always supporting our projects to safeguard cultural heritage. Now, we will move on the presentation of Ingrid García, who will guide us through the stone conservation technique safeguarding Cerro Sechín's unique monoliths located in the Andean region in the north coast of Peru. Ingrid is an artist, specialized in conservation and restoration of artworks with 14 years of professional experience in the cultural heritage field in Peru. She focuses on movable and immovable cultural assets, stone conservation, project development, supervision, and teaching. A quick note before we begin. Since we will have a question and answer session at the end of the event, please feel free to submit your questions in the chat or in the question and answer box at any time, and we will try to get to as many as we can with the time we have. Now, Ingrid, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elias, for your presentation. I will share my slides. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I am very grateful for the confidence in my work, which obviously is not just my effort, it's the effort of all the team that it's been working in the site. In this opportunity, I will explain about the archaeological site of Cerro Sechín and the procedures to conserve the surfaces of the carved monoliths on the site. The main objective of the project is to protect the lightest sculptures of Cerro Sechín archaeological site, which constitute the most representative elements of the site. Conservation actions will be carried out of the carved pieces of the lithic building in a total of an area of 420 square meters of the external surface. Cerro Sechín is part of an archipelago of archaeological complexes in the Casma Valley. That includes different such as Sechín Alto, Sechín Bajo, Manchan, Changuillo, and others located near the Pan American and Highway. And it's one of the oldest coastal Andean civilization in Peru. Situated 230 miles north of Lima, near the Sechín River in the Casma Valley. The weather in the site is arid, and sunny, sandy soil with little vegetation, and there is an environmental dryness. Water contained by the soil is relatively scarce, and relative humidity is high due to its proximity to the sea. During the days, we can find high temperatures, and during the year, low rainfall. Cerro Sechín, this archaeological site, is the most representative site of the Sechín culture, located in a key region for its development. It is just 5 minutes from the city of Casma and the current region of Ancash. There is a sequence of constructions of around 2,000 years of continuous use of the site. The archaeological site is shaped of 6 modular constructions, of which is only the main building has been researched. As we can see in the picture, this is the main building, which has these stone walls where are spread all these artistic stone monoliths. These features will spread with the great intensity centuries later in significant places of the Andean culture, like Tabin in Ancash. Sechín represent one of the earliest richly ornamented archaeological site. This is why we are really proud to be working there. Julio Cetello, the father of the Peruvian archaeology, discovered for the scientific field Cerro Sechín in 1939. And Sechín represents one of the sites as Peruvian pre-ceramic period in America. In this site, we can find 320 pieces of granite and granodiorite were sculpted, representing characters of silhouette and full body, as well as dismembered section of them. That this is really impressive for us, and been working and trying to understand this kind of iconography. The main impressive aspect that we can find are the parts of the body that are spread in each side of the main building, in each side of the stone walls. As we can see, we can find different parts of body, such as heads with different positions, with long hair. Some of them has probably blood. In other parts, we can find parts of the body, such as arms, legs. And one of the impressive things is that we can find, for example, stomachs. This digestive system, that it means that the people who was working there, they should know very well the parts of the body and the inside of the body and the systems that we can have. Also, there is a symmetric criteria about the position of each monolithic according to the size, according to the design and meaning of each one, as we can see, because in the west and the east side of the main building, the same pattern of duality is identified in the north facade, divided by the entrance for the math building that is inside of this main building. This is a sample, a product of the work of the team in field. We are developing this kind of mappings with different criteria and information about the work what we are doing. This is one of the mapping about the research background where we have all the information in the different periods about the earlier projects or archaeological research that we can find. Each color means different period and means also different situation according to the decay, according to the exhibition of the surface of the stone. Here we can have the east sector and the north sector of the main building. Below we can find the north sector that is the principal facade. I mean, we can see here in the middle, in the north sector, the entrance for the interior of the main building. And above this cover, we can find the matte walls and some art expression of mural paintings. The project, it's being focused in this site. We start in the few weeks ago with the procediments of cleaning in the east sector, and then we are going around the main building until finish our work with the south sector, as we can see here. And this is the west sector. Here in this part, probably we have the most harder work that we should do there because the level of the decay of the stones, it's advanced compared with the other sides of the main building. So about the stone that was using for this main building and this stone impressive walls, it was obtained from the quarry of the place that it's located next to the main building. So we have an east and west quarry where we can find and compare obviously different characters and features of each. As we can see, the properties, the behavior, the aspect and different colors are similar, and also the level of the decay are similar that we can find in the wall. The petrographic studies show us that the kind of lithic, the rock, is intrusive igneous, the granite and granite diorite. And as well, I explain about our mappings. We develop a mapping of the type of different kind of granite stones in all the main building. Each color means different aspect and different mineral components that show the different surface colors of the stone. So, according to the identification and the problems that we find, as long as the weathering is increasing the stone decay, it produced the detachment of the stones of surface, so that the artistic work in each stone, it's been completely lost. We can see here in the pictures, we have some detached surface, which produce the loss of the iconography information. That's why this project is really important to avoid lose this important information and values of the site. Also, here we have previous interventions that use different kind of materials that probably nowadays they are working very well or they are not. And that's why we are doing all the analysis in the site to identify each case. The lost surface can produce the loss of iconography. We have the micro cracks, all the amount of salt that also produce problems into the stones, and also some synthetic material residues that we found in the surface, and the biological agents of the kind that probably are minimum in the site. Early works that shows different kind of solutions of each area of each period or each project before us, and the agent patina, which is an important aspect because it means that the properties and the minerals of the stones, because of a natural decay of them, it's getting a color different probably many years ago. This aging patinates, one aspect that we should take care with it, because it is a natural process and we will not pretend to remove it from the stone. Also, we identify patterns of different textures and porosity, which means that we have to apply different methods and hand techniques in one piece of stone with different criteria. And also the mortar of decay, but the problems can produce the liquid discharge, and also for the stones. Here we can see again new others mapping systems that we have in the procediment of documentation in our work. Each stone has a file which have all the registration and information of the problems, the decay, the characters, the aspect, and all the necessary to know and understand the behavior of each stone in field. About the methodology of the work, we are applying surface cleaning, consolidation treatments, and stabilizing stone substrates on top of the stone walls. As part of our work, it's to keep maintain also the local systems of the use of materials. That's why we did our research about the queries of each material that we will need for first doing test and then apply in our treatments. For example, here in these pictures, we can see some plants that we are using the liquids of them to obtain a sort of natural adhesive with mortars that we will use for the treatments that we will apply in the, for example, capping in the walls. Here we have the clay quarry sand that also we find a better place to obtain close to the place, and the ash that it's a natural product to avoid the development of biological agents. We identified around the site, not in the site, the testing areas to first training to the local people which we are working, and also we have these testing areas for do the practice with them, teach them, and also to look how the properties and the behavior of the materials that we will use in the wall are working. So we apply different poultices and different kind of cleaning based in demineralized water. And for apply our different procediments over the surface of stones, we did the mapping of the surface vulnerability, which explained to the person who is working with each sector, which is the condition of the surface of the stone, which is the level of risk and the level to care that we should have when we start working with the stones. For example, the red color could be the high level of risk, and we should have really care in which kind of work we will be doing in this surface, because maybe we can lose some information and material. We start the last weeks with the mechanical surface cleaning with hand tools, the documentation procediment that it's before, during, and after each procediment, the cellulose poultice. Now it's the period that we are using this technique, and also we use some clay to do some of these poultice. The consolidation methods are principally the addition of loose parts, mortars with epoxy resin with rock grains. This is a structural bonding that this kind of material will not be in the surface of the stone. It's just a punctual points of this, just to prevent and not add humidity in this really risk areas. Consolidation by surface routines, by injection of fluid mortars or ground, microfilling, mortar paste, and before each method, it will be necessary to perform the descent fills, as I explained before. So we have some works in specific sites of routines with the liquid mortars. Preventive consolidation, we have to look in the quarry, select the best stone pieces and with the best colors to have the better and close features with the original pieces, and try to do some practices and see how it's working this kind of materials before applying in the wall in the stone walls. So for preventive consolidation, and then we are applying the nano consolidation, which probably, and this is really important for us to talk about that, because it's probably one of the first experiences of this kind of procediment applied in Peru and in the stone consolidation. Also, something important is that we are controlling the levels of humidity, temperature, and electrical conductivity parameters in the materials. And one special part of this project is that we have the participation of the women, local women also, that are being trained by the professionals in field. And this is a principal part and objective of the project. So thank you for your attention. I'm really happy to share our work, and I hope that who wants to visit us, it's welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ingrid, for such an insightful view of our work at Cerro Sechín and how we are impacting the stone conservation field in Peru. Now, we would like to have Simon Warrack comments first. Simon is a stone conservation consultant based in Italy. He recently worked as the stone conservator for World Monument Fund's project at La Libela in Ethiopia. In 2020 and 2021, Warrack spent 7 months training Syrian refugees in traditional stone masonry within the context of a World Monument Fund capacity building project in Tripoli, Lebanon. He just came back from working on the World Heritage Site at the Great Zimbabwe. Please, Simon, we would like to hear your words.
Well, good afternoon or good morning to everybody. I'm very proud to be part of this panel. It's a great honor. And I'd like to congratulate Ingrid on excellent work and research that they're doing. Particularly, I'm impressed by the level of the documentation that they're doing. This is the most important thing at the beginning of a project, along with the testing and analysis, because this becomes the record for future researchers. And from what I can see, the level of documentation is first class. So this is going to be helpful not only for the conservators who are working there from now on, but it will be important for the researchers who work on this site years into the future. So that's really excellent work, and congratulations for that. I'm interested in particular about some of the techniques that you're proposing. For instance, you are talking about grouting and about, as I understand, capping, which are the main interventions. And I would be interested in knowing a little bit more about the materials that you intend to use for the grouting and for the fillings, and also for the cappings. Because as I understand, you talked about types of clay. And I know that, I don't know what types of clay you have there, but I know that some clays tend to expand and contract with humidity. So I'd be interested to know, given the research you've done on the microclimate there, if you think there might be an impact used by that, and whether you're using limes for the grouting or for the capping. I see also that you're using epoxies for fixing the scales. This is something that we've used a lot. It is very effective, but it needs real care, which I know very well that you will do. This is because epoxy changes color if it's exposed to light. So anything that is left on the surface may look good at the beginning, but it will darken. So it's very effective for putting inside scales, for doing almost spot welding, as it were. It will hold the scales in place, but it needs to be tucked away behind the scale so that there is nothing visible. And also you don't need to put in too much because it will form a vapor barrier, though that's less of an issue with granite because the porosity is low. So I think that all of the techniques that you're proposing make perfect sense. And I think that that's a good solution for those. Let's see what else I said. Yeah. Yes, I also noticed in your photographs that there is a partial shelter over the site, which wasn't mentioned. And I'd be interested to know whether you intend to remove that after conservation exercise, or whether you intend to extend it over this whole site, or whether it's just over one particularly vulnerable section. So those really are my comments, which I hope will be useful and will help with any discussion. But essentially, I almost have nothing to add because I think you've done an excellent job. And like I said, I think starting with documentation of that quality is a very good augur for the continuation of the work to be done on the site. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Simon, for your inputs. And at the end of that comment, we will have an opportunity to chat and talk more with Ingrid about so she can give some answers to your questions. Now we will continue with Cristina Vazio, who we met a few months ago to have her opinion of the methodology Ingrid just presented. Christina is a conservator, technical and managing director of the Cristina Vazio SAS company, which she founded in 1997. Her organization collaborates with many superintendents of the Ministry of Cultural Heritage Italy and with various international organizations, including with the American Research Center in Egypt and World Monument Fund. Please, Christina, your comments.
First of all, many compliments to you and to Ingrid for this conservation project. I've never been to Peru. I've never been to Cerro Sechín. I'm very fascinated by the photos you show us and you sent me before. And so I hope I have the opportunity to visit the site because it's very, very interesting. And many compliments for your work. And because I think it's a very great opportunity, a very great occasion to study and to know, also for me, the behavior and the reaction of some materials used in the conservation field. I think that the starting points in any conservation projects are three. The most important three. The first is the knowledge of the geological property of the rock. And I read that you, through the scientific analysis, you have been able to know the typology of the rock. In this case is a granite and grain diorite. So you studied very well the typology of the rock. The second point, I think, is the knowledge of the microclimatic conditions. And so I have questions about these things, because I'd like to know if you know the day and night changes and possibly this winter and summer changes, because the thermal changes are very harmful for the preservation of any artifact. And so especially if the changes are quick and sudden. And so it's very important to know very well this the temperature and the humidity of the site. Another point is the knowledge of the processing of the carving technique, because the ancient artists use a lot of tools. And so the second question is about the carving technique of these particular monuments, because these the tools can cause micro lesions invisible to the human eye, but present inside the rock structure. So this is the second question to you. And then I noticed the use of epoxy resin, as Simon asked you, because you know the epoxy resin are unfortunately sensitive to thermal changes, and so it's very important you use them deep, but possibly change. For the consolidation in depth, I think it's better use mortars on lime and without resin epoxy if it's possible. And the last question is about the use of nanotechnology. Probably you use a product on nano silicate, I think so, because we know that inside the granite and grain diorite there is the silicate, so I think it's a very good choice to use a nano silicate. But you know, it's very important to use this kind of product with the temperature. The value of temperature must be between 5 to 35 degrees Celsius. And so the question is if during the day the temperature is above 35 or not. After 3 or 4 days, the problem there isn't, because the problem is only during the application of the nanotechnology, not after. When the silica gel is formed, there are no problems for the monuments, but during the application, yes. And so I think I am a question about it. And because another solution in this case is the use of ethyl silicate, and so it's a very good product, and but has the problem of the humidity. But in this case, I think it's not a problem about the humidity, or because you spoke about the relative humidity high due to the proximity to the sea, but I don't know how much and which is the values of the humidity. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christina. It's always great to have your thoughts on these techniques. Last but not least, we have Nelly Robles García. She is a full-time researcher at the National Institute of Anthropology and History and works for the INA Oaxaca Center. She is also vice president of the International Council for the Management of Archaeological Heritage in the ICAM-ICOMOS. She has led various archaeological and conservation projects in Oaxaca, Mexico, such as the Big Star Conservation Project, the Yagul Archaeological Projects, and the Monte Alban Management Plan, among others. Please, Nelly.
Thank you very much, Elias, for the presentation, and thank you and congratulations to Ingrid for this great project. My comments here are going to try to cover some aspects that we haven't heard about the whole problematic around a site like Cerro Sechín. I have been very lucky to be around in the recent years, so I kind of know about the general problematics. Actually, this is this is a similar example of those many other manifestations on writing systems around the world. I mean, and our global heritage is threatened by the same kinds of problematics everywhere. But specifically, the writing manifestations on stone and stucco, on bricks are heavily threatened by the global warming problems and by social problems around the world. I mean the humanity problems, the wars, the vandalism, the looting, and everything. So Cerro Sechín, that impresses me a lot since I knew the site, is one of the sites that has a heavy threatening problem caused by the lack of maintenance for several years, but also, and a lot more importantly, the global warming situations that we are facing today. So I recognize this project as a very brave and fantastic project, dealing with all the decay problematics on the site is not an easy task for a team. Dealing with all the external causes that you mentioned, like the elements, the winds, the dry conditions, the salt depositions by the sea, the sun and the cold, all these effects, but also the internal causes, the chemistry that is inside the site. However, I would like to see more the integral solutions for the site. I mean, I guess I see that the treatments you are mentioning, or the two experts that went before me, pinpointed on the treatments that I think they are fantastic solutions that can be discussed, but at least the team is going ahead with solutions. However, what I don't see is what to do with the site. I mean, an integral solution for the site. And that comes to account because I work in Monte Albán, the site that has same kinds of problems with all the writing manifestation on stone that we have all around the site. We have counted around 600 different carved stones around the site. And let me tell you that in 1986, when ICOMOS was doing the recommendations for World Heritage in Monte Albán, they recommended the coping of most of the carved stones because the problematic of decay was terrible already. So the solution that was discussed inside the INA was to copy or to take most of the original located stones, the ones that already were in their original walls, to be copied and to have all kinds of documentations and try to roof some of the areas. For the others that were not in situ, because of the different histories in Monte Albán, there was more than the half of the stones were not in situ. The solution was to take them to a safe place in order to control the environment for those stones. So we have the site divided in these two environments. We have one, and that was with the help with World Monument Fund several years ago, building proper labs and warehouses to keep the non-in situ stones safe in a place where we can study and do all kinds of treatments. And the others are still in situ, and those are the motif of very concentrated efforts from the National Coordination for Preservation from INA, that has concentrated projects on the maintenance on those stones. And we have a monitoring system. Every 6 months, they are under reviews and things. But on the other hand, the idea is to have all the stones already 3D scanned, and keeping all the images in safe places, and have this data for comparison through the years. Also, what we have learned along the years in Monte Albán and other sites with the same kinds of problems is we don't have to walk alone, because these kinds of problems are shared with several other sites in the world. So my first reaction when I knew about this project some months ago was why don't celebrate agreements and MOUs with several sites that have the same kinds of problems and create a link with several other specialists, several other experts to discuss on the solutions. What I at the end would recommend is think about an integral project that takes care of not only the site itself, but the surroundings. I mean, why don't we think in linking the problematics that are present in the World Heritage Site of Chanquillo and Cerro Sechín, and use the nearby museum as part of the solutions for this fantastic Cerro Sechín site. I guess spreading the benefits of World Heritage that Chanquillo already has is an interesting mean of addressing solutions and discussions with many other experts around the world. I guess this is a very important example of how to deal with a site. But remember, we are not alone in the conservation world. There is a lot of people around with many other ideas and solutions, and willing to share. And that is why I put this on the table, because these sites should survive, are meant to survive several centuries ahead of us. Thank you very much. With this, I finish my comments.
Thank you, Nelly. Your work in Mexico also provides us with incredible examples of how to continue our projects in Peru. Well, now we will have a few questions from our panelists to open the discussion about the methodology we are using in Cerro Sechín. Maybe we can start with one or more questions with Simon or Cristina or Nelly, but I would like to perhaps, if you can talk more about one aspect that Simon raised in his presentation and here in his comments, and also Norma Barbach in the chat mentioned about that. the use of epoxy in the conservation process. Can you tell us something more about why is a key issue to take in consideration? What is a red flag in this presentation? Simon?
Well, there are dangers in every single type of material that are used, and the art of the conservator is to understand the parameters and the risks and the benefits of each material. So there's no forbidden material, but what is important is to really know how to use it and when to use it. As I understand, what they are proposing is similar to a technique that we used in Angkor in Cambodia, where we just used little spots in order to hold the scale in place, because the alternative is to pin it, and that involves drilling a hole, which is to be avoided because there's much higher risk. So when epoxy is used badly, that's when you try and inject it and you fill a whole space, and that will only create problems. But if it's used strategically, the worst it can do is fail, but it won't create any damage if you're doing it like that. And it also gives you the possibility to do a double intervention. What we did in Angkor was we did spot welding, as it were, little spots of epoxy, and then we made an injection with a lighter material such as a lime mortar, or actually in the case of there with a mortar that was bonded with ethyl silicate, which is not so adhesive. It's more of a filler, but the epoxy provided the adhesive. So we did a kind of double intervention where the spots hold it in place, but the injection fills it and consolidates it to a certain extent. So like I say, there is no such, there's no forbidden material. It's really important that the conservators have a really good awareness of how to use the materials, how to adjust them to specific situations, because that's the art of the conservator. It's understanding and adjusting materials based on the conditions that they find on the ground. And if you can do that, then I think you can achieve a good result. But like I said, it has to be hidden. It cannot be on the surface, and it should not fill any spaces. It should just be in tiny spots. So if that I hope addresses the question of the epoxy. It's controversial, but actually all materials can be controversial. You know, the best material can be used badly by a conservator if the conservator doesn't know what they're doing, as can the worst material can be used very well by a conservator if they do know what they're doing. So it's entirely up to the team to understand the parameters.
Thank you, Simon. Christina, something to add?
Oh, I completely agree to Simon. So yes, very good explanation. So I think it's enough about the epoxy resins.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat. Nick says, do you consider the use of paralloid B72 based repair mortar in combination with epoxy resin tack welding? One clear benefit is the reversibility of PB72.
Oh, yes, okay. So I would like to answer probably the questions of all the panelists and also the people who was asking. About this last question, I think, I don't know if any of the panelists has the experience to mix or use a resin or epoxy resin with paralloid. Actually, we had the documentation and the registration of the previously or earliest work that applied the paralloid in the stone. Actually, nowadays we can see that the decay of this material for the weathering that the stone has, it's not working, and the level of oxidation of the resin, the material also has different contrast, and probably it's not working this kind of that we found there. About the epoxy resin, as Simon said, actually, yeah, this is the methodology that we are considering for the project, for the procediments. It's because the detached parts, they are empty in the surface, and if we can touch just to try to fill with some mortar or some other material, even to clean, it could just lost. That's why we just use the resin epoxy as spots in just few points that are not visible, and obviously never in the surface of the stone, because we can avoid the humidity transportation into the stone, and it could produce more problems in futures. That's why also, as we know, for example, that the resin direct to the UV and the sun and all the weather elements could be problems. That's why we have this methodology to crush the similar stones in different levels of grains, which are mixed, so that we are using the less as possible portion of resin. It's not applied pure and direct in the surface of the stone. It's just like a spot as a preventive consolidation for other treatments. And about the shoulder that was mentioned by Simon, it was used for an emergency period of a natural phenomenon to protect all the structures of mud that we have inside of the main building. Now, probably because the lack of maintenance and conservation produce some problems that are going direct with the condition assessment of the stones in the backside of the walls. This is something that we have studied and also registration for do some procediments to avoid these kind of problems, and also for the as a product, as a result of this project, it's a plan of monitoring and a plan of maintenance to give to the site to solve some of these problems and notice main problems that the site has. About the suggestion of Cristina, yes, thank you for all your recommendations. Actually, we are getting these criteria of the treatments of consolidation, as surface should be dry, the level of temperature. We have a weather station as part of this project that was located next to the main building, and actually we are having this monitoring of levels of temperature, and actually it will be there for the next years and for other projects, because this kind of information works better if it's during many years, and we can understand the behavior of the site and the materials. Also, we are doing that with each stone with hand tools to have these kind of parameters in the moment of our conservation. And yeah, about the nanotechnology, we are using the nanosilicate. We are working with that, with this, and yeah, we will apply it in the period where it's high temperature in the site, in the summer time. So also the next months will be the time that we are preparing the stones for this kind of procediment, and controlling the level of temperatures. We can have the high levels of the temperatures that allow us to apply this product. And also we are using the ethyl silicate for consolidation methods. Actually, we are testing, because this is in our program of the project, testing before in the quarry sites that we have there. And we will test in the next month and the next weeks to see also the behavior of it and the better way that we should apply if after, because now we are doing some cleaning procedures. Well, about the shelter, about the Simon talk about that, it was using for a specific moment because a natural phenomenon to protect this building. Just as part of the project, we are suggesting to the management people of the site to consider remove it and probably put another system that integrates all the sectors and all these parameters we should control to avoid this kind of speed and level of decay of the stones. More because we are applying this procedure that should be avoid as possible the weathering in the future. And we are giving a sort of documentation of this plan of monitoring. As Nelly said, yes, it kind of managing of these sites with many components and different problems. It's not just, I mean, this is one of the important part to avoid loss the iconography, that's a principal value of the stones and the building, the main building. But yeah, we have problems. Part of the project consider the study about the structural behavior that we had and the risk in the area. Also, we are getting the recommendations of the expert. We are not, I mean, I'm not just working there. We are a big team of professionals, and also we have a support of scientific professional, and they are involved to giving this kind of advice and recognize and help us to identify more problems and solutions. And also, of course, the integral solution is important. I can understand that the World Monuments Fund, it's giving all the effort and support for the site and for the people who is working there for improve this kind of motivations with the participation of local governments, just not us as professionals. It is a work of all people that is involved, the local governments, the professionals in the material. And yeah, I mean, after these months of, after all this project, we are understanding more the problematic of the site. And we need a lot. I mean, the site needs a lot, and we are doing something important, but to get the maintenance of the place, we are doing this kind of recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Well, we are running out of time. We have only a couple of minutes, and I will choose one or two questions in the chat room. The chat is just full of excellent questions and so on. For World Monument Fund, it's very important linking heritage with community. And we have one of the first questions is from Alfred. How are you engaging the surrounding communities, people in Casma, for example, in the conservation of the site?
Well, this is one of the best criteria that we have in the project. Actually, the good, all the groups, the people who is working with us, it's people from the site and from the local towns, as people who it's been training by all the professionals in field. And also we had some events with the participation of children, of young people, with the sons of the persons who was working with us in the project. As a principal component, it's the empowering of women. And they were participating with us in art workshops in the site, having experience with the mud, for example, as a material that it has this connection with the site and the materials that being used in the main building. And they are participating with us all the time, learning the techniques, understanding the behavior of the components of the site, and understanding the reasons why we are doing the things that we are doing there, that this is important. And they are not just working or learning with us, they are being identified with their side, with their culture more with this kind of work.
Thank you, Ingrid. A last question that just arrived, and I will answer it, is from Jorge. Are there also accompanying archaeological excavation as part of the restoration project? Yes. What Ingrid have presented is only the stone conservation part of the project. Is only one of the components of the project. This project is an archaeological project that is led by an archaeologist. Monica is in charge of all the research project. And we have a team of conservators, we have a team of archaeologists working together, taking decisions together, discussing in the field together, archaeologists and conservators, and that's one of the richest part of the project. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time. And before we depart, I would like to thank all of our speakers for joining us today and for your insightful reflections. They have been very important for us. I would like to express my thanks to the American Embassy in Peru, the Centro de Investigación y Conservación de Patrimonio of the UTEC University, and the Proyecto Arqueológico Cerro Sechín. Of course, thanks all of you that have joined us today. The webinar recording will be made available in the coming days and sent to all the attenders and registrants. So you will have a copy of this really nice and beautiful event. Thank you and see you all soon.